Hey everyone, this is Eddie, and welcome back to the Seasons Podcast. I know we've been absent since the beginning of the year, so thank you so much for your patience with us. We've been facing a lot of challenges throughout the year, and that forced us to pause the production completely. Luckily, that was sorted out, and now, like everyone else, we're just hoping to end the year on a high note. As for the other team members, Sven and Tom, they moved to other cities, and now they're focusing on other projects and other aspects of their lives as well. So, due to the limited hands on the project, we will only be posting as our schedule allows us to do so. With that said, today's episode was recorded back in February, before the pandemic hit. We recorded this episode with my friend Carmen, who lives in Costa Rica, and we talked about mental health. At the time of the recording, this was a topic that I just recently became more aware of it because of some events that happened, and I was surprised that there was not a lot of media attention given to it. But the following months after that was what really showed me the relevance of this topic, given the challenges and events that happened that made it really hard for me to keep up with my own mental health. So Carmen, Tom, and I, we discussed more about this during our conversation, and we also try to learn from her personal experience with mental health disorders. So the purpose of this episode is to raise more awareness about it, understand how we can deal with these emotions, how we can help others that are in a bad place, and most of all, understand the importance of mental health. Here's a message and an update from both Carmen and Tom.
Hello, nice to meet you all. My name is Carmen, and hopefully you're doing amazing. First of all, I really want to thank Season Podcast for having me here. I'm very excited and honored to be in this episode 6. I feel that it's really important that we talk about mental health, and September is National Suicide Prevention Month. It is a time to remember those affected by it, and not only that, it is to raise awareness and to normalize that it is okay to get treatment or to go to therapy. Hopefully you really like it a lot as much as I do. Always do your proper research, ask around, and yeah, I think that's it, and enjoy a lot. Have a great day and take care of yourself. Bye.
Hey everyone, it's Sitomo from Seasons Podcast. Hope you're all doing well and your family are safe. Eddie and I wanted to give you an update based on how we've been missing since the start of the year. And so from my side, what happened to me was that in the beginning of the year, I was very focused on finding a job after graduation. And so most of my time was put into job searching. However, by the time my work permit came, my OPT permit came, COVID came like a bat out of hell. And I had a hard time finding interviews because of the difficulty compounded by my visa status as an international student and COVID-19 adversely affecting the job market. I did have a short-term opportunity, but afterwards I was back unemployed and job searching. Throughout my time there, I was really thinking hard, and I didn't see how the US is going to recover from COVID anytime soon to help me find a job within a reasonable time frame, since I only had a 1-year OPT. So I just decided to hopefully start afresh in life, go back to Indonesia. So I'm currently in Indonesia. I'll be job searching here and start saving up for my master's program in 2 years, hopefully, in a COVID-free world. I also want to bring up how September is the Suicide Prevention Month. It is dedicated to reaching out to people who are affected by suicide, raising awareness, and connecting people with self-harming thoughts to treatment services and help. This is related to our next episode because we will highlight and inform you how you can help the loved ones around you. And that is all from my side, so stay cool, people. Hope you're well.
Again, thank you for tuning in. It's been a long and challenging time, but we'll do our best to keep these conversations and this podcast going. If you want to support this podcast, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify. You can find us there as The Seasons Podcast. And if you want to watch video footage of this podcast, you can also check out our YouTube channel. We recently just redid the whole channel, and we will also be posting shorter clips of the episodes where you can have more digestible content as well. Once you're there, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and share with your friends. So, without further ado, let's roll the intro. So today we have a very special guest. Her name is Carmen Liu. Hi, Carmen. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you.
So she's an investigation specialist for fraud on Amazon Costa Rica, and what she does is that she basically analyzes seller accounts on Amazon platform to prevent fraud. So she's protecting consumers and buyers. And but also she's a very avid advocate for mental health awareness. She has a lot of experience on the mental health field, and her thesis is also about how social media and mental health can work together to create a better, a better world in general. So yeah, Carmen, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah. Okay. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for welcoming me here.
For sure.
So, well, I'm not an expert actually. It's just based on my experience and everything that I have done right now. Well, up to now. And well, I live in Costa Rica right now, so that's why we're doing this. And I met Tom and Ellie, I think around third year of college. Yeah, we went to the same one. So
Yeah.
I think around there, I met you guys. And actually, when I met you guys, that was a time where I was kind of having like some issues that I'm gonna say later on the podcast. But yeah, so I just have quite a lot of experience, and I also heard a lot of story from other people, and hopefully I can help others. And yeah, I just feel like this is a really important topic for everyone to know.
Yes, and I think that we talked about this briefly years ago, and we never really dig deep into it because, you know, as college kids, we were just like, okay, I guess party it's the priority.
Yeah.
And not talk about these serious topics. And I think that this is a great time for us to actually sit down and have a good chat about this. And yeah, very excited about this. We actually have been planning this for like months. Months, yeah. So I'm very happy that everything is set up here and this is happening. So I'm very excited.
Same.
And yeah, Tom, why don't you give us like the big picture of everything?
All right, guys. So the big picture that we'll be covering today is about poor mental health, suicide, and how other types of disorders are disruptive to your day-to-day life. So I have some facts for all of us today. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. 1 in 4 adults have mental health disorders. So imagine this. You're living in a family of 4. There's you, your sibling, your mother, and your father. And there's a very large chance that either one of you, your parents or your sibling, have a mental health disorder, or even yourself. In the US, there are 2.5 times more suicide than murder. To put the numbers into perspective, there are 40,000 suicides a year on average, while there are 16,000 homicides per year on average. This is a leading cause of death, but little attention is being paid to it, and instead it is stigmatized. For every suicide, unfortunately, there are also 25 suicide attempts at the same time. Fortunately, there are ways that we could work towards a treatment for this, and that's what Carmen will cover next.
Yeah, actually, treatment is available, but it's not being used. I'm not saying that people don't use it, but it's just that nearly, like, this is a stat that I found, like nearly 2/3 of people with a known mental disorder never seek help from a health professional. And it is kind of sad, but at the same time, you can kind of relate to it because, you know, when you have a problem, you always go to your closest friend, to your closest family, right? Going to a health professional, it's someone you don't know. You know, like, kind of like saying everything to that person, it's a little bit weird, which is kind of understandable, but at the same time, it's the right way to do it.
Yes, and I guess that's something that a lot of people don't seek help is because I guess that sometimes they are not even aware that they have a severe mental health issue, and they just think and it's just a temporary issue that they have right now, you know. And it's very sad to hear that they're not seeking help about it. And so giving a little bit more context and some fun facts on how this topic of mental health issues were brought to my awareness is that one of my coworkers, he mention that the Golden Gate Bridge, there's an event on major holidays, let's say on Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Valentine's Days. There's this bridge watch event where people gather together, volunteers gather together, and they look out for people who are attempting to suicide, and they help these people to prevent them to take that step. So this step, I pulled it from their website, and up to date on Thanksgiving 2019, they were more than 24 confirmed suicides so far in 2019, and over 200 people came to the bridge to end their life, but they were either stopped by police on the bridge or by the volunteers themselves. So to put it in a bigger perspective, it's like, so every other day, every 2 days, there's someone that comes to the bridge and attempts suicide. And it's crazy. It's like in a week, it's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. All of these days, there's someone coming in and trying to kill themselves. And if we put it into perspective too, it's like from the confirmed suicides, every 2 weeks, every 15 days, there's one person that actually is successful in killing themselves, which is very, very sad. Yeah. And the amount of people that actually died, it's like that actually successfully suicide, it's 1 out of 5 people of the ones who attempted. And again, going back to the analogy that you said about the family, it's like it really shocks me because my family size is 5. It's my mom, my dad, my 2 sisters, and myself. It's like one of us have died from killing themselves. And that makes me very, very sad. And I think that it's something that we never talk about, we never paid attention to. Whenever I drive around the Golden Gate Bridge, like you just see the beautiful scene, the cars around, the water, the boats and everything. But under the edge of the bridge, or by the edge of the bridge, they're like safety nets for people to prevent people from jumping. They're called like suicide nets, I guess. That's how they call it. And it's something that I've never paid attention. I've been living here for 4 years, and I've never seen those until I actually started looking, researching about it. It's like, dang, there are this thing that we never pay attention to. The media doesn't talk about too much about it, and even ourselves between friends and everything. It's just such a sensitive topic that we never touch on,
Yeah. Wow. Actually, I didn't know about the net. That's really interesting. And yeah, it's true. Like you said, like for example, I remember going to SF the first time. That was back in 2014. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember before I went to San Francisco, I remember searching about the city and the Golden Gate just because I wanted to see around the city. And what caught me the eye when I was searching was that I found an article that actually the Golden Gate's like one of the most attractive bridges for to commit suicide. And that was pretty sad to know because, I don't know, like it makes me think like every time I pass there is someone, like at least one person thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And that's sad to know.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's actually one of the top destinations in the world, like maybe around top 5 destinations in the world for people to kill themselves, which is very, very sad. And I don't know, just by talking about this, I think it's like a very heavy topic. It's very emotional as well. But yeah, let's dig more into it. And why don't we start by defining what is mental health? And I found this definition on Wikipedia, which goes as follows. It's mental health is the level of psychological well-being or an absence of mental illness. It is a state of someone who is functioning at a satisfactory level of emotional and behavioral adjustment. I really like that definition. It kind of like covers all the scope of and gives us like a very good picture of what is the state that someone should be. How can I say it? Like,
if I could say, it's something that people should also take care about, aside from their physical health.
Yeah, exactly. And I also wanted to say that this definition kind of like gives us like how a picture of how is somebody that is mentally healthy should behave, you know. And sometimes
Yeah.
you just don't know. People that are suffering from several type of disorder might seem like the average person just having fun, having being happy,
Yeah.
but deep down inside there are so many things happening in their head. And one of the different type of mental health that we're going to talk about today, it will be depression. I don't think we can cover all the scopes of different type of mental health that we have, but I believe Carmen, you wanted to talk more about depression because it's a topic that you have like more personal experience in it.
Yeah, so depression, this is a definition that I took out from Google. So depression, it's a common and serious medical illness that negatively affect how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. So some key indicator is yes, you do feel sad. It is not, how do I say, it is not for a long period. It's kind of like temporary or like seasonal. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. It's kind of like a graph when you see like the stock market, like it goes like up and down. So it's kind of like that. That's what I would say. And it affects you in many ways because it can actually get into your daily life. Like sometimes it will interrupt it. And sometimes you can even get like panic attacks. That's another key indicator. Some example or situation that actually bring mental issue or like triggers it is unemployment, loss of someone, or maybe you're being lost in your life. This is actually a big example. For example, like nowadays, well, there is for us, especially young adults, we have a period where it's called like the prime period, where it's usually like the 20s, where you got out of college, you're trying to find a job, but then you have that period where you're like, okay, what do I do? I need to find a job. I need to get a house. I need to get a car, like all those different stuff. But you're still young. And there's that kind of sense like you're lost, like you don't have a guidance because you're out there in the real life, exposing yourself, vulnerable. And that affects a lot of young adults, especially according to statistics, it is mostly target in the young adults age. And I think it's because of that, because you're just lost in your life. And that's one of the main triggers. Yeah. And actually, I have a personal experience on that. So I started college in 2014. And everything was fine in 2014. Well, I had some ups and downs, but because I was far from my family and I had new friends, it was like a new environment. And then in 2015, things just became really bad. And I didn't really thought about anything. I just thought like, oh, it's just because I'm far from home. That's it. And then, but then a lot of things happens, and then more like, I won't say like bad situation. I just say like it's just situation that happens start getting into my life, and then I feel like really bad. I actually tried to commit suicide twice. And then I remember actually one of my friends, he decided to take me to the hospital. And I went to the hospital, and that's how the doctors diagnosed me with depression. So I have that. And then I remember I couldn't accept it at first. It was really hard. It was a procedure of like, I would say like 2 years. Yeah, it took me a while until like my last year. And I remember in 2015, also like the year that I got diagnosed, I remember that even my grades went down. Like even my professor, who was also at the same time, he was my advisor. He also came to me and he asked me like if we could talk, because he could see like a big difference in my behavior and everything. And that is true. Now that I'm thinking it back then, I remember not going out much. I remember not talking to my friends. and my friends wondering what was going on. But that's the thing, even yourself, like, I didn't know. Well, I knew, but I just didn't want to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard. I remember that year. It was like a year that it was numb. That year I didn't do anything, basically. But just to try to like, leave. And then after that, I actually thought, you know what? I'm gonna get help, like actually professional help. In the beginning, it was hard because since I was an international student, I didn't have the money. So I talked with my parents, and as Eddie said, this is, I would say, because of personal experience in the Asian community or the culture, it is hard to express about this topic. So I remember, yeah, we're just all laughing because we know.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, that's the thing. And I remember talking about it with my mom. And my mom was like, she actually told me this. She was like, no, you don't have anything. You're normal. You're not crazy. And then I thought to myself, why would she relate this to being crazy? Or like not normal?
Mm-hmm.
That just made me feel like even worse, thinking like, so were my test results wrong? Or I don't know, like I just started doubting. But then what I did is that I remember I just didn't go out, I went out less. That way I could have extra money. And I just tried to like have more money so that I could go to a professional help. So I went to a psychology first. And then after that, I got help. It was pretty awkward, not gonna lie, because you have to tell the person everything, and it is weird being there in a room.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I feel like kind of relief. But yeah, at the same time, it was hard because I didn't have the money. I didn't have the support from my parents, which is something I feel like I want the most. Like I wanted the most at that moment. But yeah, and then I kind of got help. I started getting help slowly. It wasn't like every day. It wasn't like every week. It was like once a month, something like that. And then after that, I started doing a lot of research actually, instead of like, because I was telling myself, okay, if I cannot go to someone, maybe doing research will help. So I started doing a lot of research. That's what I did. I started like getting out of what is depression. I started reading stories from other people, and actually, reading stories from other people helped me a lot. I also got into a Facebook group that was called like Asian Community for Mental Health,
Something
and that
Asian mental health.
yeah.
Okay.
And that actually helped a lot. Like I started reading people's story, or like people will post like, hey guys, I have this and that, but I'm not sure. Like people will ask and then people will reply. And that was something really nice because you could see like, oh, this is actually normal. And a lot of people have it. Yeah, so that helped me. And I started, do a lot of research. But that was the thing. Not gonna lie, it's still hard. Like sometimes I still get my panic attacks. Sometimes I get triggers. But it is less than before. Because now that I know it, I can at least kind of embrace it. So yeah, that's basically my experience. And
What is interesting is that going back to your parents saying like, oh yeah, it's something normal, and I'm just very curious. I'm very curious to go back in time and meet my parents where they were like 20s or just married. Like my parents weren't like hella rich, they came from China, migrated to Panama, to a country that they don't speak the language very well. They didn't know the language. They were working. They had a convenience store, and they were working like, the convenience store schedule is like crazy. It's like a 7-Eleven. You work from 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. or sometimes even more. And I'm very curious about how did they have that mental strength to go through all that process, of
Yeah.
being in an environment that you're not comfortable with, in a country that people are just getting racist against you, and working so much, because once you get like physically depleted, like your energy is out, it's hard to keep up that mental health, like keeping pumping yourself up, motivated or whatever. You just feel depleted and defeated. And sometimes when your energy's out, I think that sometimes your thoughts, I guess, like depressive thoughts or sad thoughts just dominate your mind.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when I listen to a lot of stories, especially about like Asian immigrants, it's like, oh yeah, my parents say that it's a common thing, you'll get through it. It's like, how? I'm
Yeah.
working so much, and I feel tired sometimes. I feel a bit lost what I'm gonna do in life. I have so many goals but so little time, and this and that, and thank God, like I still have that. I'm mentally sane in order to keep myself up, not give up and give up on myself and everything. But for someone that it's going through this mental illness, I can empathize and I can understand how does it feel to sometimes just to, you just want to give up and not do anything, and it's sad to hear that some people even take the extreme decision to take their lives, like when you're being in a situation when all your options, you have so many options, or you are out of options, and you decide that your only solution for the problem that you have, it's to take your life, kill yourself, and you think that everything will be gone at that moment. And that makes me very sad, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It gets
Yeah.
hard for people to realize that they're in a difficult position too, because again, like asking for help is stigmatized, because if you do ask for help, or if you publicly acknowledge the fact that you have a mental health disorder, people would call you weak,
Crazy.
Crazy.
yeah. And I think people would even say, like, I read somewhere on the internet that someone said that they're just riding on a trend just to sound cool, and in fact that experience somewhat happened to me. I was speaking with a person who I knew, and we were working together on a project, and I had a hard time focusing, and it's because during my childhood, I was diagnosed with ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and so it's hard for me to pay attention sometimes. When I brought this up with the person, which is the reason why I couldn't focus, the person was very dismissive about it. He said, "Oh, a lot of people say that they have ADHD sometimes, but that's just because they think it's cool." And that's just such an insensitive statement to say to people, because it's not like, okay, because it's a real issue, and it's the intolerance of people, the misunderstanding, the people's misunderstanding, like the public's lack of willingness to openly talk about suicide, talk about the stigma of mental health, which is not really helping these people, because people should be made aware of it, and being intolerant and just calling another person weak, it's not going to make anything better for them.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like it should be seen normal. Because just like when you said, let's say with physical things, for example, like, oh, I have a back pain. People are like, oh, you should maybe have some of, I don't know, the sore thing to put it on your back. That's seen normal. It's like, oh, I have a cough. Oh, you should get some cold drops. It's like so normal. So I feel like mental health should be like that too. But it's a little bit more serious, but it should be seen like that, like normal, where people say, hey, I have this or that. And then the person should, like empathize or understand it or listen to it. because I feel like everyone has like same experience but different feelings. Like everyone go through something at some point, and I feel like if you put yourself in it, I feel like everyone can actually relate to it. At some point, everyone can be like, man, I feel you. I actually not been there, but similar situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we just realized that your background was very dark there, and Carmen just turned on her lights. If you're watching this from the YouTube video, you'll know what's happening. But yeah, a sudden change.
Yeah.
So yeah, and let's
Your
continue
as well.
the topic. And so yeah, I think that it's very important for people to understand that mental health, and not everybody goes through the same process. And when people say like, "Oh yeah, I know what you're feeling," it's like, don't say it like you completely know what is it to feel like the other person, because everybody has different feelings. As you said, even going through the same experience, having the same, let's say the a how you spell it? Sorry, ADHD. Yeah,
ADHD.
ADHD.
Yes.
You can suffer from the same mental disorder and a mental issue, but your feelings will be the same. It can highly affect you or not affect you at all. And I think that
very often when you say I understand to someone who's currently facing these problems, you'll probably never understand the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's good to be aware of that. And what in your story also, what sparks my curiosity is that I want to know, you said that you decided to go to get professional help. So I want to know, like, what was the trigger or the event or the thought that made you want to make the decision that, hey, I really need to seek help and move from that negligence part where you're like, oh yeah, it might be just temporary. It might be just probably some BS in my head, and then move on to like, hey, this is actually very serious, and I need to look for professional help.
Yeah. So there is another kind of, what do I say, like people. I'm not saying everyone, but when people hear that someone has any mental disorder, they always think, or like when people, let's say someone commits suicide, they always think, at some point someone would think, oh, that person was selfish for not thinking about their family, their friends, whatever is going on. But that's the thing, we don't feel like that. It's not that we are being selfish, because you're getting to the point where you just like lost, your mind's completely blank, and you're just thinking about that problem. And that's the thing, it's not that you want to be selfish, you're actually crying for help, like you're like kind of like trying to ask. And what triggers for me to actually ask for help was because my friends start like realizing how different I was. They were like, are you okay? Is anything going on? And I would tell them, but it was always the same thing over and over again. Like it was never improving. And then even my parents could sense it. I remember I had a kind of like, I wouldn't say I was a rebel, but for them it seems like I was just being a rebel, but it was because of that. So I just started like, so looking at myself, and one thing that helped me actually to realize is because I start writing, kind of like a diary. Sounds cheesy, but it did help actually. Writing helped me a lot because this is true. Humans don't actually remember. A lot of people don't remember what they eat for breakfast, or what they did in the morning. Yeah. So actually, writing my feelings helped me look through it again, and that actually helped me see like, man, this is actually serious. And that's why I decided to get help, because I could see that it was actually interrupting my daily life, my personality, because it changed. Like people will see me. I remember I know I'm someone who tries to make people feel comfortable because that's what I want. Like, that's what I like. I like seeing people happy. But when I was in that kind of, like, how do I say, when you're like in the stage of like,
The bubble.
yeah, the bubble, exactly. Like when you're in a bubble, you don't realize that, and you're just like stuck. And I felt that, like, I felt like I was stuck. I didn't know what was going on. And that's the thing, I didn't know what was going on with me. I wanted to know what was the main thing. Why do I feel like this? And it wasn't always like that. And I'm not saying it was because of college. No, because I also felt that when I was younger, that kind of feelings. So I wanted to know, like, the main, I don't know, the main situation, like why it happens, why am I feeling like this? And that's why I went to seek help. That actually helped me. But after that, I feel like the only person who can help yourself is actually yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, receiving support from people. Yeah.
And I think that you're also like very lucky, since you said that you also attempted suicide, and I guess your
Yeah.
friend was able to
Stop
kind of
it.
like stop it on time, and then you
Yeah.
luckily went to the hospital and got diagnosed with this. Even though you were negligent, you at least were aware that was something wrong with you.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
I think that it's very lucky of you. And sometimes people
Yeah.
don't get that chance, once they
Yeah.
attempt suicide in the first time and they succeed, boom, that's it, it's the end.
Exactly.
There's
Yeah.
no way, no going back.
Yeah, because it is hard. It is hard. Like you said, some people, you see them in average life, you're like, man, this person's always happy. But you don't know, like, maybe back in the mind, they have so much going on. Just like I remember there was an actor that committed suicide. Was it Robin Williams?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Comedian.
Yeah, exactly. The comedian, yeah. Everyone was like so shocked because they were like saying like
He was so happy.
yeah, exactly. And that outcome was like shocking. And that's the thing, we don't know what was going on with him.
So when it comes to mental health, not only
Mm-hmm.
depression, I know that there are like
A lot of them.
yeah, a lot of them, but I want to kind of know from your perspective, what is like the different stages of mental health in general, and how can we be more aware of these different stages of when our
Yeah.
friend is going through something, our family member might be in some of this stage, and can help us like
Yeah.
identify these key moments to prevent a disaster or misery happen.
Yeah. So I kind of like broke it down into several stages. It is not always like that. It can be different. Like we said, it is different for everyone. We're all different. So there is a stage that's kind of like where you are kind of aware that something is off, and at the same time you're kind of in denial. So it's like that's your beginning usually, because you're like thinking like, no, this is temporary, or it's like, oh, this is just normal life, life is unfair, whatever, that's how you think. And then there is the second stage where it's kind of start interfering with your daily life. Like, for example, your grades go down, you don't want to see your friends, or you don't really do anything, you're dismotivated, you're just, like thinking a lot, you start overthinking. And that's the bad part, because you start overthinking. And then there is the acknowledgement, which is the part where you kind of realize. So you acknowledge the feeling, and then you kind of consider seeking help. But that's the thing, the part of seeking help, like Tom said, it is hard, because sometimes it happens because you're young and you're trying to see like, okay, I have to tell my parents because you don't have the money. And then there's the other part where you're like, no, if I seek help, I won't say a lot of stuff because I don't feel secure. And then there's many factors. And I'm not gonna lie, but you do go through a lot of psychology, different ones, to get onto the right one, until the one you feel most comfortable. And one thing before going more. So there's actually a psychiatrist and psychology. I didn't go to a psychiatrist because I didn't think it was like that serious. But then I went to psychology because I'm more like, I like to talk about it more and more like that. But then when I went to the doctor, when the first time I went to the doctor, actually I was diagnosed by a psychiatrist, and she actually gave me, like, she prescribed me some pills, but it didn't help. It actually made it worse. But then for some people it helps. So there is that. Either it helps or not. You try a lot of things. It's a lot about trials. So seeking help is a process because you gotta know many things. You gotta go to many places. And that's the thing. That's a lot of money, which I understand for some people. Yeah?
Carmen, when people are seeking for help, what's the difference between a psychiatrist, psychologist, and a therapist?
So I think what I know is that a psychiatrist, it's mainly focuses on using like medicine or pills or drugs to help you with your mental disorder.
Yeah.
And the psychiatrist tends to go to help like more like people with heavy, like very heavy, I don't know how to describe it, like heavy type of mental illness.
Acute?
Like
yeah, acute.
Yeah.
A psychologist and a therapist is more like the typical kind of like TV show type when you see someone laying down on a couch and just talking to someone.
Yeah.
And it's less of using medicine, but more about like conversation. The psychologist and the therapist helping you to help you figure out what is wrong and how you can perceive something better. Instead of seeing an half empty glass of water, you see a half full glass of water, kind of like that. So that's how I understand it. I don't know if you agree with that.
It is true. Yeah. A psychiatrist is someone who can like prescribe medicine to you, and then the psychologist is the one that you talk. It's the one that cannot prescribe. Yeah. And
are both of these therapists then?
Yeah, because with a psychiatrist, you can also do the talking, but they are able to give you medicine, and the other one is just more like without the medicine. That's the main differences. And
that's good to know.
What?
Yeah.
Sometimes people do like try to find help, but then they might not. They're still afraid of asking help, and sometimes they would just tell other people that they're too busy with work to find help.
Yeah.
Would you guys have any ideas about like what kind of action plan this person should do? Because my answer to my own question is that they should try to make more effort to spare some time to set an appointment with a therapist. But would you guys have any other ideas if they feel like they're too busy with work?
That can happen, and that's the thing. I feel like when they're too busy, it's because they don't realize it. There's that. Like, I think when people are busy, or they say like the excuse of like, oh, I'm just too busy, it's because they're in that stage. Like, they don't realize it yet until it gets really serious. Because that's the thing. People get help when it gets really serious. Or, as the sad part, some will go with the suicide thing. And that's the thing we want to prevent. And, well, I know according to statistics from what I saw in the research, yes, suicide is increasing, but in the United States. But at the same time, more organizations, more programs, more things are increasing too. Like, for example, I did a thesis about depression and social media. So there was a news about Facebook. I actually read it too. That was back in 2018. I remember reading it. I remember seeing it. And I saw that someone commit suicide on live. And a lot of people saw it. And then after that happened, of course, Facebook took it down. But that's the thing, people were really mad about it because they were like, how can you not realize it? This is, like people were just upset like with Facebook. And then there's the thing, Facebook, it's such a big, data world. So what happened after that incident, Facebook decided to actually use AI to detect depression or suicidal, any mental health, which is kind of like to do, like kind of detects like posts. If they're able to, then what happens in the AI, the algorithm, is that it detects the post and then it will try to send to the 20, I think it's 20 or more organizations that they're paired with of like for suicide prevention, and then those people would try to reach out to that person. That's what they did after the incident. And I was telling you guys in the beginning, I was trying to find the news because I couldn't, and I remember reading it back in 2018, and that's another conflict that I want to actually talk about. That a lot of the news about suicide, it gets erased, like it got shovels down. It's just like if you want to see it later, it's gone, and I don't know why. It's like really, I don't know. It's like a controversy. That's what I feel.
I think they do this just to like keep people, not like kind of like blurring the screen and let people see like the beautiful stuff that we have in the world, and preventing people to actually see like there's a lot of problems out there, and just like I guess it's just a tendency to be spreading like the happy news or the normal news and shovel everything down. I actually have like a personal, not a personal experience myself, but you guys know our marketing guy, Sven. So he lives like in the building across mine, and his bed is like next to like a window, and it's a huge window. He lives on the 9th floor. And then one day he suddenly saw a shadow drop down from his window. He saw something pass by hella fast, and then he heard a huge noise hitting some hidden floor. This happened like probably a month ago or within that time frame. And then he looked down the window. He saw a body there. The policeman came by. They covered the body up, and then the police came to his van to interview him. Like not interview, like ask him questions like, "Hey, what did you see? What happened?" Whatsoever. So we ended up that it was an Indian man, around 40 plus years old, I guess, who successfully suicided. And me and my wife, we actually tried to look for news, like, hey, what's happening? Like, who was the victim? It's like, it's literally right next to our building. It's our neighbor. And then somebody, he just killed himself. So we wanted to go through the news. We went to SF Chronicle, websites, this and that, Google, whatever. Nothing came out. And the only thing that was mentioned is that so we have like a community app, like a neighborhood kind of thing, that people post like, hey, there's this homeless guy roaming around and yelling to people, be careful, or they're selling stuff and stuff like that. So it's just like a community app where people post and chat. So the only thing that we found was about this suicide was someone posting it on the community app, like asking like, hey, so I heard that there was this suicide attempt, and there's no records about it. Is there any update about it? And nobody replied. Nobody did anything. And yeah, it just, I guess it was just forgotten. It was just as you said, like
Yeah.
shovel down the rock, and that was it. Boom, bye, and nobody knows anything about it. But I was shocked. I was shocked. Like it's how can I describe it? So Sven and the building between my building and Sven's building, we have like a community area in there. So if I
Yeah.
was walking in that community area, then somebody just jump, and he could have fell like right in front of me. I could have seen all the blood, the thing, and it's like, oh my god, it's so near. It's just the
Yeah.
proximity of the event that caused such a huge shock to me. I can't imagine what Sven went through. I think he was very traumatized for a couple of days, and we were talking about it. We're very sad about it,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's sad that there's no awareness brought to this topic, and
Yeah.
and yeah, and I think we have to go back a little bit on the stages of like different mental health, and we kind
Yeah.
of derailed a little bit
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that.
Of course.
But yeah, very, very sad story. And yes, it's true. People don't like to talk about this. And even the media, I guess the media's influence on it. My theory is that if there's no demand for it, people don't want to listen anything about it. So the media just doesn't report it, you know? Like some, that media just have like preferences in choosing
Yeah,
what
yeah.
to report, as long as they're making money, as long as there are a lot of views and they get more ad revenue, and the chain goes on. So who would like to read about people killing themselves in the news? I guess nobody, and I guess
Yeah.
the mass audience is not, then the media is not catering toward the mass audience on that. But yeah, just a little parenthesis there. And yeah, what you were talking, let's continue with what you were talking about, the
Yeah, the
different
stages.
stages. Yes.
Yeah, so after you acknowledge it, there is something that's like kind of like the crisis where you start like avoid it, then you don't recognize the help, then you start getting intense feeling, then you break down, then that's it. You're like, oh my god, I'm going, like insane. And that's when that's what I was telling you guys, like people, when you get help and when you start seeking help, it's you have to be to the point where you're like breaking down. That's when you actually seek for help. And like I said in the beginning, it is sad because there is treatment, no cure, but there is treatment, and not a lot of people go for treatments. And let's say they do go to treatment, then there is the engagement, and then a recovery, and then after that, you kind of maintain it. So you start like, kind of spreading, talk about it more, and you just kind of like start knowing what you like, what's going on with you. Because yeah, at the end of the day, I always say this to people who have mental health: you gotta embrace it, because it's gonna be part of you, and it doesn't make you a bad person or not normal. Exactly. At the end of the day, it's you, and people who are around you still love you for the way who you are. And actually, you sharing what you feel makes them be like, this person trusts me, and you're gonna help each other. And that's the thing. Not gonna lie, it's not always it doesn't go all like good. It will come back. What I mean is like that you're aware of it, but the thing can repeat. Outside, like the crisis will come back, and then you get rejection. You start kind of like rejecting it again, and then you start realizing again, and then you seek help again. It comes back and forth. But that's the thing. After you go through the worst, the back and forth is not as bad as you think. You start like, okay, I know what's going on, and that's a good thing. So you, at the end, you accept it, and you, like I said, you embrace it, and you just go along with it. You play along with it. And also, for me, like Eddie said, I've been lucky, and I do consider myself lucky, and that's what I want to do. That's why I'm here, because I want people to know they can do it. I know it's not the same experience, not the same feeling, but there is a way always. And for example, right now, I haven't talked with my parents so much about it, but my mom is aware of it. She knows more about it. She actually, even herself, has opened up to me. She started talking more about her feelings. And even with my friends,
That's
it
great.
has, yeah, it's better. Like with my friends, I I know I know that if I tell them, hey, I need some space, they know at least it's like, okay, at least she's telling us like she needs space. So that's something I feel like it's good. Because at least the people you're surrounded, they know and they're aware of it and they can actually help you in some kind of way. It doesn't have to be always, like giving you advice. At least even listening or giving you a hug or just giving you space, it's helping you. And that's something I feel like everyone should do. Even if you don't have a mental health disorder. As a normal thing, it should be, I would say this is something that should be done as a human daily life. Yeah.
I think sharing feelings, it's like sharing feelings and thoughts. It's a very crucial part of our lives, and that was something that I was, again, going back. I know that we're mentioning this Asian culture thing a lot, but it's just there. We have to talk about it.
Yeah,
So,
you just have to.
And I think that it's great that your mom is opening to yourself. Even for me, even nowadays, like my parents, we never talk about feelings. Never. The only thing that we see, at least for myself, it's my parents breaking down, crying. But they'll say, "Oh yeah, I've been a lot, and I'm having a lot of pressure and this and that. Like, how can this happen?" And then overnight, the next day, it's you like, "Oh yeah." And we just go back to a normal topic of like, how was school? Let me cook. What dinner's ready? That was it. And that's a sad reality of us growing up as kids of Asian immigrants. And I would like to raise my kids in an environment where they feel comfortable talking to me about their feelings, how their life is going, how they feel towards certain topics, and not just force them into believing like, oh yeah, it's okay, force them believing that mental issues is not a thing, and it is. And I'm trying to implement that more with my little sister. We have like 12 years of difference. She's in middle school right now, and it's I talk to her more like, hey, it's okay, like thank you. It's okay to feel this way, I understand, like I've been through that. I'm saying, like, my parents are, I mean, they did some great things that I don't think they planned it, but it worked out some way that was able to help me form the person I am today, be focused, motivated, have good grades and this and that. But they also did a lot of mistakes and flaws, and I want to prevent that to happen to my little sister. So I'm like constantly be talking, constantly be like, hey, what you want to do in school? Your options is not just open a business and drop out of college, or go to college and become a doctor or a lawyer, and those are your only three options. There are more, like, and I'm like, I encourage my little sister to explore more about this and that, and also talk about like, hey, if my parents fight in front of my little sister, it's like, it's a very traumatic experience, because I've been through that. It's like, I hate my parents fighting. I hate when my parents fight, and that was one of the traumas that I have in life. Like, I can't, like, I hate seeing a woman cry. It's not because I'm like sexist or whatever, but because I hated that my mom ended crying her heart out after a fight. So, and I never talk about it. I never talk to anyone about it. And that's what I'm encouraging my sister to share more of her feelings with me. Like, hey, like, I know my parents are not having a good time right now. Their relation is kind of like on and off, but it's okay. Talk to me. I'm your brother. I'm here for you. So I think that's a very big step that everybody within the friends group, the family, it's like it's okay to chat about a topic. And sometimes when you just sit down and just have some long time and just talk about this thing, I don't think it's a taboo. I try to break taboos and speak about a variety of topics with people. And yeah, I'm very happy that right now you're in a situation that you are like, you feel comfortable to be sharing everything with your close friends, your loved ones. And I hope that example and that situation can be duplicated in more and more people's life, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's really good. I feel like, because like us, like we're that generation, we are the future. And I feel it is a big part that we should do that step, is to actually, you know, with your friends, with your family, even someone you don't know, like you can actually let them know, like, hey, do you want to talk about it? And like let them know that you're there. And that is really good. That's a big step, because we are the future to change something. Yeah.
So before we move to the next topic, and I just wanted to see how would you summarize in one word in all the different stages of mental health, as you described before. Just one word for stage 1, 2, 3, so we kind of like have an idea on what is what, because I felt like the description and everything were a little bit long and the audience might have got lost in between. So
yeah. So I would say we have 4 stages. You have like
negligence.
Yeah, negligence. And then there is, sorry.
No worries.
And then there is awareness, then there is rejection, and then after that is acceptance.
So those are the typical 4 stages.
Yeah. But
yeah.
It doesn't happen to everyone. Just like I said, this is just kind of what I base on it. So it's like kind of my experience, but it is kind of like that. Yeah.
And I think the most important stage that we as people that are, for the people that are not suffering from a mental issue, is to be able to identify if someone is on this negligent state, because I think that's the most lethal part. Because sometimes, you don't just go from negligence to awareness and then rejection and then acceptance.
Yeah.
So sometimes people just stay on the negligence and even jump into rejection, and then that rejection becomes, again, a life-threatening decision
Exactly.
to solve your problem, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because what triggers suicide is not knowing what is there. And let's say you start going in a spiral. So think about it, you know, we all have overthinking thoughts. Think about it, you start spiraling and your mind start going just on the same thing over and over again. And yeah, I would say sometimes at the end, it is sad to say this, but suicide looks like like attractive solution.
Yes.
And that is also another thing that's really interesting. A lot of people who commit suicide, also based on my experience, let's say the attempt was not successful. That attempt helped them think about, okay, I'm not gonna do it. This is not what I wanted to do. And that's something that I always say, like, it's really interesting, because we actually don't want. I believe people don't actually want to commit suicide. It is just kind of what I would say, an illusion.
On an impulse of the moment.
Exactly, because the ones that are not successful, they always go back to life and they start rethinking, they start seeking help, and they start actually improving. Because I've seen it from like documentary. There's one documentary about the Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah, where people who didn't. There was a guy that he attempted to jump, and it didn't happen. but he broke his legs because of the high jump.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, he became really aware of it, and he started actually appreciating more life and thinking more about his family, his friends, and everything. And that's something that I'm always saying to people, like, man, I don't want you to go through that stage where you think about suicide, and then after that you attempt and then you realize it, because that's what we're trying to prevent. But that's something that I find it really interesting, where when it's not successful, people start getting better.
So yeah, I think that's very interesting. And going back to the thing that I said about the Golden Gate Bridge suicide stats, is that only 24 people out of the 200 people that attempted suicide actually successfully did it. So if my math is not wrong, 100, around 175 people who attempted suicide actually, out of the 200, actually never went back and tried to kill themselves again. So I think that's the bright side of stuff. Like, we have to be able to foresee these things and help them and prevent them from taking that step. Because when they take that step, I can't imagine someone that jumped and in the middle of the fall, because the Golden Gate Bridge is high as hell, you know.
It's really high, yeah.
And then in the middle of the fall, you just like all this, like, if you have 1,000 reasons to kill yourself, and during that jump, you realize one small reason, one little thing that makes you think that, oh, dang it, it's not worth it. I need to go back. I need to redo this again. I want a second chance. And you can't, because you're in the fall. You can't do anything else. The impact itself will kill you instantly. And I think the guy who broke his leg jumping from the Golden Gate Bridge is like, it's very, very lucky.
Yeah, he is. And he is grateful too.
Yeah. So now that we talk about all about the facts about mental health, the definition of it, and the different stages that people go through on when suffering from mental issues, I want to dig deeper in the part of like, how can we prevent this to happen? Yes, we touch a little bit about talking to people, sharing their feelings, but I believe that in your thesis, one topic that we can point out is that you wanted to use social media to prevent suicide. And we touched a little bit about it when you were talking about how the Facebook AI is able to identify this and send it to different orgs, and these suicide prevention organizations will like help out in some way. But I think you have a little bit more info on that. I would love to listen about it, because social media nowadays, it's such a, it can be a how you say it, a two-edged sword.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like when you go to social media and you see other people's, and you just keep comparing them yourself to these Instagram models, these people with a better life, a bigger house, and this and that, and that just doesn't help with someone that is suffering from a mental health issue. So I would like to know what's your thesis is about, and we can like talk more about it.
No, yeah, it is true. I'm not gonna lie. When I was doing the thesis, actually, there was a lot of research about negative stuff. It was hard because I couldn't find something positive. So it took me really long, yeah. Like, I was like, man, I need to find something positive, or this thesis is gonna go to the trash. Yeah, so it was really hard, but I remember talking to my advisor, and he started like helping me. He was like, okay, Carmen, think about it. What is actually social media? Where did it come from? Why was it, why it came? So, and it is true. So social media, what we need to know first of all is that social media is a form of communication. It's a way for us to help to connect with people. Just like in Facebook, their mission is to connect everyone around the world. And yes, it is a two-edged sword. Yeah.
I think it's called double-edged sword.
Double-edged, yeah, double-edged sword.
That sounds better. Yeah, that
Yes.
makes sense.
But yeah, it is true. because I mean, you can, just like murder, you can never prevent someone doing something bad. Like you cannot, I mean, not prevent. You cannot like wipe out everything, but you can always put solutions to it, like small things, what to do, preventions, and that's what is going on. Actually, just recently, for example, Facebook, they did the AI thing to detect posts. Also, Instagram, this is new. I didn't put it in my thesis, but this is actually new. Where in Instagram, if you type the word depression in the search bar, it pops up something right away. It doesn't let you search. It pops up like a help thing where you can like click and options, and you can like start seeking for help for free. Wow. Yeah, it's like a hotline call, something like that. And also, I think I remember seeing that where you can also shake it. If you shake your phone, it also pops something up. Those are the things that we should be sharing to people so that people know about it.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, another thing is Twitter. Twitter has something. So when you see a post that maybe you see a post that someone said, I feel like everything is gonna, it's bad, something like that. Like you feel like it's a post that's gonna, it's sad, or like it's a post that is threatening to that person. You can report it to to Twitter, and then it comes up like a big page where you fill out stuff. You fill out like what it says, and then you send it, and then Twitter will send a notification to that person. That's something you can do too. And also, for example, let me see. Yeah, so I have actually the link of Twitter. That's what I wrote for my thesis. But for example, for me, what I wanted to do is kind of similar to Facebook. Using AI is kind of like to do an application that can scan all the social medias and everything that we are on. But this is for the doctors. It's an application for the doctors where they can, because just like I said in the beginning, it's hard to seek help. Not gonna lie, but in the beginning, I never thought I'll seek for professional help because I wasn't comfortable with the person. Because I was gonna be like, man, I have to tell that person everything. And even to your closest friend, you don't tell everything. So you're like thinking like, how am I gonna do that? So yeah, I wanted to do that where there's an application using AI to scan like your actions, your kind of like your activity in social media for the doctors. If something like a warning happens, like I don't know, a post is dangerous, the doctor can see it and kind of analyze, because there is a reason we have psychiatrists and psychologists. They study for it. They decided they have the experience of it. They have more. They know what kind of posts are, like dangerous, like what kind of writing actually perceives to something real, So that's what I wanted to do. But at the same time, when one of the risks of this application, like this solution that I gave, was the privacy.
Yes.
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure because it's like, like you're invading privacy using social media data. So people are going, it happens like that with Facebook where people were like, oh my God, we don't have privacy because Facebook know everything, and it is true.
But you're the one who chose to share everything, so it's
See,
a bit of a controversial topic.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think the biggest weakness with this app or let's say this concept, I don't know if there's any company or startup that is doing this at the moment, but
yeah, I don't know
think
either.
the biggest weakness on this is that first of all, you need the consent of the user to give out the data for the application to analyze all the activities and everything. But usually somebody that is suffering from mental issue is not aware of this thing, of his own mental problem. So how, if he is on a, let's say, in a negligent state, be able to consent to, oh yeah, I'll just give out all my data, but you don't even know you need help. So in some sense, you do need like doctors and professionals to be quote unquote invading your privacy in order to understand you and see what is the stage of your mental health. But because of this data privacy and this like this issue just becomes like a huge blockage in there. And again, as I said, like somebody when he or she doesn't know about he or she being mentally ill, this like could create a lot of problem for giving the max utility for your application, you know.
Exactly. Like it is a good app. Like I mean, it is a good solution, but at the same time, there is controversy to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And it. Yeah, you were saying.
So yeah, that's what I wrote, but that's the thing at the end. I didn't share much, which is something I think I should do now, because maybe I haven't researched now, but I don't know, maybe there is a company that's doing it. We don't know.
I somehow feel like if there's a new company or startup that is doing this, won't necessarily succeed for the fact that, again, we need the person that has a mental issue needs to acknowledge that he is mentally ill to share his data and sign up for this app or whatever. Maybe an add-on for Facebook to function properly. I think there will be very challenges for these companies to do that, but for companies like Facebook to just implement something like that, I think it will be way easier because they already have all the data, or people are just blindly sharing the stuff in their social media anyway. So what's the additional harm in it? But again, people are just sensitive about their data privacy and this and that. It's like,
the privacy thing, I think that's another topic.
Yeah, huge topic. With all this like the US elections going on and stuff. Oof.
Yes. Yeah.
It's crazy. So let's I know that you have to go very soon, so why don't we wrap up the conversation with some of the solutions that you recommend, or not solution, but more like what would you suggest or recommend people that are not aware of mental issue? How should they think? How should they behave, or what should they do in a case when they encounter somebody that is suffering from this mental illness?
Yeah, so, well, that was our main topic actually, to raise awareness. So what I always recommend people to do is that it is always good that you let them know that it's okay to feel whatever they're feeling. Also that you're always there for them, and you start asking questions, like, because if you start like giving out like advices, it's like, let's say I start giving you advices, right? You start thinking like, man, she didn't even listen to my story. She just listened to what I have, but not to my whole story. Why would she knows, that you start thinking that. So I always tell people to actually ask the questions, like ask what's going on, what do they feel, when did it started, just like the 5W. What, why, when, well, how, and where.
That's an H.
Yeah, H. And where, and where, who. Yeah, those questions. You have to be curious about it, because I feel like if you really want to help someone, it's because you're curious and you want to do everything you can to help that person. Even if it's just asking or listening, even listening can just be there.
because listening is really important. And that's something not only in friendship, but also in our daily life, in work. Listening is really important. So I would say that. And then also for the person who is having the mental issue, it is okay to not find the right solution in the first try. Because it is not going to be like that. If it is like that, that's really good. But it is not going to be like that usually. You have to go through many, many, many trials. You either go to many therapies. You can go through a lot of medicine too. There are different type of medicines. Some medicine don't work for you. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of trying. And yeah. But at the end of the day, it is okay and it is normal what you're feeling and what you are. Because it makes who you are. Like, I actually had this conversation with my roommate where she asked me this really crucial question where I was just like, man, I never thought about it. Where she was like, would you be the same if you didn't have it?
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, damn, no. I thought about it really hard and I couldn't have an answer. But after that, like later on, I did. And I told her like, no, I wouldn't be the same. And actually, I'm glad I have it because I'm able to help more people and be more like empathize. Like actually understand if someone tells me something like a problem, because this is not to brag, but when someone tells me a problem, I usually just listen. And a lot of people who tell me their problems, they feel a lot better. Even if I didn't say any advice, I just tell them like, hey, it's fine what you feel. Just tell me. Let it out. And that's something, yeah, I told my roommate like, man, I actually think this actually helps me to push something else. So I told her like, no, I wouldn't be the same, and I think I'm happy to embrace this.
You should quit your job on Amazon then.
No, I need the money.
But yeah, I'm going to that point where you said that you're very glad that you have it, and yes, I also wanted to add that point at the end that for people, maybe in our audience that it's going through mental health issues or in this whatever stage that you're in. I recently watched a YouTube video about depression, and I thought that one of the things that it mentioned that it can be a good part of the solution, not the solution, but part of the solution is to be having a great sense of gratitude about everything that you have in life. Again, going back to the thing about social media, when you're constantly comparing yourself to others, that doesn't help at all. And we should be able to use our social media to what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to be used for, for communicating, spreading the word, and talking about mental health issues and stuff like that. Gather yourself with a community of people that are actually very passionate about this topic, instead of just throwing yourself into a toxic community where people are just blaming or comparing each other,
dismissiveness,
and this and that. So I think that sense of gratitude of being grateful for everything that you have a shelter, food, parents, loved ones, friends that are supporting you. I think that is a piece of the puzzle, not the puzzle itself, but a piece of the puzzle that will contribute towards you being able to embrace your mental illness. So that's my little input on that. And yeah,
Same. But yeah, and this is one summary that I give to people is your story is not over. it is still there, and it continues, and you have to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, my whole intention of doing this podcast is to literally like just bring awareness about the different type of like let's say obstacles or negative forces out there that can cause mental issue to people, how society is like denying this like such as a huge topic, you know, and just bring a little bit more awareness about it to it, and hopefully we through this conversation can prevent someone on taking that like that wrong step of taking their lives, because that shouldn't be a solution for any problem. There are always solution. There's always a way out.
And I also just wanted to add, like, it does seem scary to ask for help, but if you don't ask for help, you wouldn't get it. Like, what I mean is, like, you have to put out your word. You have to put out the word there, and it might be scary at times, but there are people out there who can help you. For example, there are like Facebook groups such as Subtle Asian Mental Health, or other public Facebook groups on mental health who can help, who you can voice your concerns to, and in those environments, they're really open and people are accepting. So there's always help out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. Oh my God, I feel like we went. It was a good chat. I really like it. I think I stutter a bit much, but yeah, it's just all these emotions like going on that it's hard to just keep my head like my focus on like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it is hard like to be serious.
But yeah, not to be serious, like to be focused.
Yeah, focus.
Damn, it's such a heavy topic. But yeah, the Seasons podcast, we are very happy to have you here, Carmen, and we hopefully we can do a future episode again, talking about some similar topics or whatsoever. And if the audience has more questions about it, we can always follow up. And we're very happy that you are here to talk about this topic. I learned a lot, like a lot of stuff I didn't know even when we were like prepping for this episode.
I learned a lot from the prepping sessions too.
Exactly, like the prepping. I think the prepping session was an episode itself. Like it was so much info out there, and myself, I didn't know. I hope that this episode can also serve people as a great source, not a source, but at least a trigger or the first step for someone to be more actively helping out people with mental issues. So very happy that we did this episode. And so yeah, guys, is there anything else you want to add, Carmen?
No, that's it. Yeah,
that's it. Great.
Yeah,
so,
but thank you. Actually, no. Well,
thanks for having
me. I'll add something.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, thank you so much for this. Like, I really hope we can help others, and this episode it's not only for helping the people who feel it, but also the ones who can help, and also to the ones who feel like for example, when I was in that stage where I didn't tell anyone about it, I really feel sorry to my friends because they were really lost. And that's something I want to raise. Like, if you're having someone who, you haven't talked to, and you feel like that person is feeling something, talk to the person, ask about it. And it is okay if that person doesn't say anything to you, because they're probably going through something, but try as much as you can to make that person talk to you. But yeah.
So yeah, guys, any website, social media of yourself or something that you want to share? Yeah, you.
Okay. Well, you can Well, you can follow me on Instagram if you guys like. My Instagram is public actually. If anyone wants to reach out for me and ask me more like about my experience, like actually in depth, like the details, I can really tell you guys. I'll be more than happy to open up. It is, what was it? At Carmen. No, it's
Carmen Liu Chang.
No, well, yeah, that's my name, but I think it's Carmen underscore
Carmen Boom something.
Liu C. If not, we're just gonna type it in YouTube.
Yeah,
below.
in the
Yeah,
description,
we'll
leave it in
figure
the
that
description.
Yeah.
And I think that also you wrote some Medium articles in the past. Do you want to share those as well?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
So we'll also leave it on the
Yes.
description.
Yes.
It's
Because I
medium.com/something.
Yeah, because I forgot that. But yeah, that Medium page, I wrote some like a breakup experience. I know a lot of people go through breakups. That's one of the most common things. So if you guys want to read it, go ahead. But yeah.
I read a bit about it. I really like the way of the storytelling and also like tap into also the psychology of someone like going through all that. A breakup can also lead to mental illness. You never know.
Yeah.
And so I really like how you describe everything, and hopefully someone that is reading that can also feel empathize and feel and hopefully it could help in some way, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna share include those links in the description on YouTube. But yeah, guys, thank you, Carmen, and thank you guys for being here in another episode of the Seasons Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, just Instagram, Facebook. So make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We are the Seasons Podcast on
Instagram.
again 1, 2, 3. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can find us as The Seasons Podcast on those platforms. And also, if you are, we're also, I'm going to restart the whole social media part.
Okay.
So, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find us as The Seasons Podcast on those platforms. And also, if you are already on YouTube watching us, awesome. But if you're not, you can also go to our YouTube channel. You can find us as The Seasons Podcast, and you can see the video footage of this episode. And make sure to subscribe, smash that like button, and share with your friends. But yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you, Carmen, for being here again.
Thank you.
And,
Carmen.
and we'll see you guys soon. Peace.
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 All right.